Hello. Okay, I'm going to start talking here because Philip, when he asked me if I would do this, sent an email telling us how this all worked and reminding us that even though there might only be a few people watching at once, to remember that the vast majority of people who watch this watch it afterwards on YouTube or on Facebook, and I can see a whole lot of people that I know just signing in. And hi from Michigan. Hi Marcella, and hi from Cork. So the format of this evening is I'm going to chat lightly for a couple of minutes up until just before 8:05, and then we will have a short talk by me, followed by a meditation around just after 8:10, and then we'll finish up by 20 past. Timekeeping is important. It's nice to see everyone popping in. This is a very interesting experience. I've watched this for most of the last year, and I've wondered what it looked like when I see Philip or any of the other speakers saying, "Hi, I see you coming in from all these places." So now I can see what it looks like. So just a brief introduction to me and who I am. My name is Paul Corcoran. I am an OBOD member living in County Kerry in Ireland. I have been a member of OBOD for 18 years. I joined when I was 21 and I was living in Cork at the time. And my journey through the order has been a slow one at times, but over the last 10 years, it's been quite connected. So the first 10 years or so that I was a member of the order, I did the first bardic grade, left it for a few years and used some of the meditations as part of my life, and then did a new version of the bardic grade, following on by more connection with the rest of the course. Hello, everyone from Massachusetts and from the Netherlands. Yes, Jenny, it's working. And so then my personal journey since then is I first started going to the summer gatherings probably around 8 or 9 years ago, and I met some amazing people there. And from that, and from my time living in a few different cities where I was members of different C groups and working groups, people getting together to celebrate the seasons, I really found that the order and Druidry is my home and my family. And to be able to do this then is such a privilege to be able to speak to so many of you at once. I'm watching the names pop in and the little hearts pop up. So the purpose of my talk this evening, I am going to talk a little about what I see as an interesting polarity between ordinariness and the magical, and how it can be useful at times to separate them, and it can be useful to merge them together, and then it can also be really useful to critique one from the other. I have a few points that I'd like to make, but primarily it'll be a little bit of a meander through my thoughts on the subject. So you'll forgive me if they're not entirely coherent. I'll share a little bit of my thought process and how I came up with this topic, which illustrates my connection with the magical. I am currently exploring John and Caitlin Matthews' Halaquest course. So I drew a tarot card, a nice magical practice, for some inspiration on what this would be about. And my card was the 10 of Cups, or Grail 10 in their deck. And for me, that was particularly about home and that sense of contentment and that sense of the potency and the magic of having a home and a very full life. So that led me on a track down thinking where that diverges and what's different about that. Just want to briefly say that I can see, hi from Tipperary, you're only up the road, and Tuscany, Berkshire. Hi from the living room in this same house. And hi to all the people in New Orleans who are there for the OBOT gathering. So I'll begin with my prepared talk for this evening. I'd like to start just by thinking about what we mean when we think about ordinary life and what it means to be ordinary and what it means to when we say the mundane. And the reason I bring this up is I sometimes hear people in the Druid community and in other magical traditions talking about a difference between their magical life and their ordinary life. And borrowing from J.K. Rowling, I've often heard people referring to non-magical people as muggles and so on. And that can be fun, and it can create a barrier between us and the other person. And so when I was preparing this, I was thinking about what it meant to be ordinary and remembering back to a time before I discovered all this wonderful magic and tarot cards and druidry and reverence for the land and sacred stories and sacred spaces, and what it means to be in sacred time. And that hunger for something special and something that brings a spark of meaning, and picturing that and sitting back into it and feeling what it's like to feel bored with the life that we're in. And what does that feel like now in my life at the moment? What are the things that I feel are dull and boring? So doing the dishes or doing laundry, or actually, if you know me, you know that's not true. And all those other little chores that we can resent when we look at what it means to live an ordinary life. And then at some point, each of us discovers that there is something bigger, something more, something out there, whether that be finding a druid order that we can connect with that gives us a sense of a story and a bigger picture, or a magical group or a tradition or some sense of greater wisdom. And diving into that can be thoroughly exhilarating, and finding ways to go deeper and more into this magical world that we can create. And that magical world is filled with ceremonies at night with people chanting under a full moon, which is an amazing experience. Or wandering through the woods lost after a ceremony, trying to find your way back to the car park. Or discovering that there is deeper meanings in the stories that you read as a child, or that the landscape is filled with metaphor and mysticism. And the reason why I wanted to raise this is I think there's also a shadow side to that I think we fail to acknowledge at our peril, and I think we do. I think that as a community, we tend to acknowledge and name these things, but I would like if we could be clearer about them. The shadow side of that is saying that somehow we are special, or that what we do is particularly unique, or that the way we access the world or the way we think or our values are better than other people's values. And that has the very dangerous element of separating us from other human beings and allowing us to sit in a place where we're judging them. When in reality, the reason why we come to this tradition, or the reason why we come to this sort of practice, is that it allows us to see that everybody feels this way. Everybody is looking for some sort of magical experience, whether they get that in a hiking group walking outdoors, or being an actor on stage, or celebrating the equinox with friends on a hill behind their house under a full moon. Each of those is a way of finding connection and meaning with other people, So the connection that we have through others and our opening up to the divinity of the world around us and the magic of the world around us is a way, I think, primarily of bringing that magic back into the world, that we can look at the world around us with rejuvenated eyes, with a sense of mystery and appreciation, but also a sense of connection. So then coming back to the chores in the house, I don't always look at it this way, but I think of doing the dishes as a profoundly magical act. It's transforming something from one state to another. And it's also a way of deeply connecting with the space around us and with my home and with the people that I share my home with. And it's an act of love and service to that home, and it builds that home. And then other very ordinary things like paying my credit card statement, paying my credit card bill, or making sure the rent is paid. And if you're interested in any way in occultism, that's pure magic. It's the transfer of energy from one space to another. It's causing an absolute change based on effort that I've put in to earn that money. And I've used that energy to acquire things, to acquire experiences, to pay for my home. So what I want to say when I talked about this, the magic of the ordinary and the ordinary's magic, also has another flip side. And paradox is everywhere. We love paradox. But the paradoxical side of that too is that after a while, all these magical things that we do and all these magical people that we hear about and all these magical acts that we do, bringing out my tarot cards or standing in circle with friends, it all becomes a very ordinary thing. It becomes part of life and something that I do for connection and for simplicity. And it no longer feels other. It no longer feels something to be done in a way to keep me separate from other people. And the interesting thing then that comes from that, and this may be just aging and me moving into my 40s, is that when I was younger, I would have had a sense that the things that made me different, my gayness or my paganness or my membership of Druid order, any of those things, I would have kept separate from other people because they wouldn't understand, because they weren't like me. And they would be used against me to separate me from them. But now, particularly maybe at this age, or at my comfort in who I am and what I do in the world, I realize that those things don't separate, that they're completely understandable by other people when I speak them in a way that makes sense. So when I talk about pagan ceremony to someone who practices a very devout Roman Catholic tradition, if I honor where they're at and I see the sense of connection that they have with their heritage and their traditions, and I respect that from where I'm coming from, my paganness is mundane to them because it seems normal, because it is. Oh, and I like the comments from people. Thank you very much. I'm aware of the time. It's almost 8:15. So I'm going to transition this now into a very ordinary, mundane, very Obod style meditation. So let me take one more sip of my obligatory tea. And I would now like to invite you, wherever you're sitting, to sit back in your very ordinary chair. Close your very ordinary, mundane eyes. And I invite you to take 3 breaths with me. The first breath we take together with the very ordinary, mundane land beneath our feet, the same soil and land that everybody is standing on. And the second breath we take with the sky above us. The same sky, the same ordinary sky that is above us all. And the third breath, I invite you to take with the seas that surround and connect this planet, these ordinary seas that have been traversed by people for millennia. And with the blessings of land, sky, and sea, allow yourself to sit in your very ordinary chair, in your very ordinary house, doing a very ordinary thing, sitting on Facebook, like so many people in the world. Just become aware of the beautiful things around your house, the ordinary chores, the laundry basket, the pile of paperwork that never is quite sorted, the dishes that are never quite done, the never-ending pile of clothes to be sorted. All the ordinary things. All the ordinary things that connect you with everyone else. And outside your home, be aware of the air in the sky. That air that flows in through your windows, flows into your lungs and out. I'm reminded of a quote from Gabrielle Roth, the great of Five Rhythms, who said that the air is a promiscuous lover. 5 minutes ago, it was inside somebody else. And beyond the air, beyond the sky, become aware of the moon. That same moon that shines on everyone. And beyond the moon, the stars of the heavens. That enormous galaxy and universe in which we are just a tiny, ordinary planet. And how wonderful it is to share this home, this planet, with so many wonderful, amazing people, with so much beauty and so much life. Become aware of the earth beneath your feet, this planet, this home. Every piece, every part has its heritage and its stories. Every one of them special, every one of them sacred, every one of them ordinary. And feel the strength of this ordinary earth that connects us to each other, to the planet, and to home. And I'd like to end with a prayer that we end many of our ceremonies with in Obad. I'll just say it once, but we often say it 3 times, which is, we swear by peace and love to stand, heart to heart and hand in hand. Mark, O Spirit, and hear us now, confirming this, our sacred vow. Our meditation has ended. And I'm pleased to say that it is exactly 20 minutes since I began. Philip asked if we could reply to all of the comments. So I'm going to spend some of this evening doing that. And this video will be posted on the OBOD Facebook channel, and it will also be on YouTube, I believe. So anybody who hasn't seen it or wants to watch parts of it again, that's all there. I've left my name in the post above. So if anybody wants to reach out and connect over any part of what we've discussed, or just to say hello, because it's always wonderful to meet other wonderful human beings doing wonderfully ordinary things like drinking tea on a Monday evening on Facebook. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for being here.